Hey mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all having a great day. And this is part 12 of the Project ERA build. Apologies if I scared the life out of you at the end of the last update with the screaming. That wasn't Mark, although I can well imagine it probably was the sound Mark made when he realised there was more panel work and welding to do on the ERA, because we genuinely thought it was all finished. Yeah, but it wasn't. Still a bit more to do, so we unearthed that in today's update. So the reason we found some more was just because it wasn't very obvious. So the shell was sent away and was sandblasted, and they do a really good thorough job of sort of the exterior bodywork inside. But as I've mentioned previously, they don't do the roof because the sandblasting process can distort the roof or large panels. And they were meant to have done the whole of the underside, but they only kind of done the outside parts of the underneath, if that makes sense. So what it left was some areas in the boot that weren't fully sandblasted, and just the previous stone chip they used on the car was very, very good actually. It was a very strong stone chip, very difficult to get off. And it survived the sandblasting process. So Mark has decided to take it back genuinely to bare metal, to shiny bare metal shell. So when he was cleaning up the boot, he did find some more corrosion and rust, unfortunately. So there are sort of two schools of thought for cleaning up a shell. To this extent, you can have it dipped, like acid dipped, chemical dipped, or you can have it sandblasted. And there are pros and cons of doing each. Mark prefers sandblasting, or certainly did do up until now anyway. And yeah, certainly with sandblasting, some people don't like it because the sand just gets absolutely everywhere. It could be difficult to get rid of it all. But Mark's thinking behind it is, and it tends to work actually, it gets rolled around so much on that rotisserie, and you're taking most of the panels out, or lots of banging and moving panels around, that it tends to get rid of all the sand as you're doing it. But like I say, one disadvantage I think is it doesn't take off all the seam sealer, and can leave areas at sort of panel joins and where it overlaps, where there's either seam sealer or built up stone chip, so you can miss some things. But I think like acid dipping it, chemical dipping has its disadvantages as well. But be interested to know people's experience actually of chemical dipping. So into the video actually, I'm waffling on here. So Mark, very ingenious method there for cutting out the wheel arches. So he's kept hold of all the old panels up until now, so he's just using them as templates to cut the new panels. And there's that new little Dremel tool making a very nice precision cut of the wheel arches. So the ERA obviously has 13-inch wheels. Not sure what the offset is, but if you don't cut out the wheel arches, it does foul the arches when you turn the wheels. And the front panel, there's cutouts in the bottom, which Mark was just doing. That's not for wheel clearance, that's actually, the ERA has functional ducting on the front. So the front part of the body kit where it has air scoops in it, they're actually there to cool the brakes. So there's cutouts in the front panel to allow that air to get to the brakes. And the part Mark is drilling out there is like a strengthening section for the actual wheel arch, because obviously you're cutting some metal out, you need to put some strength back in. So ERA have that strengthening piece of metal that goes in there, very similar to what they have on the later Rover Sports Pack Minis. And as well as the strengthening section, one issue with having bigger wheels and big wheel arches is that the side repeaters need to fit higher up in the wing to clear the wheel arches. Although on Sports Pack Minis, you'll notice that they actually put a cutout in the top of the wheel arches, so it accommodates the existing side repeater hole. But in the ERA, what they've done basically was just move the side repeater just further up in the wing. And obviously Mark's just doing the same on the other side with that strengthening plate in the wheel arch there. So it's quite a difficult hole to make in the wing there because it's not round and it's not square, it's sort of oblong with a cutout in it for the little clip that holds the side repeater in. So again, cleverly, Mark had kept the old wing, was able to cut the part out the old wing and use it as a template again. And what they'd actually done with previous restorations, as you can see here, what you end up with is two holes in the wing. And obviously the previous restoration the ERA had, they'd just left it at two holes, but Mark's actually made a blanking plate to go in there and just seam welded it the whole way round and just linished it back just to make it a good job. Now I've got to be careful because Mark does quite a bit of talking in this video actually, so Mark, I think like me actually, when he started doing YouTube and anything like this, it's horrible when you listen back to your own voice. It's always difficult to get used to, something I used to hate. I've kind of got used to it now doing YouTube, and it's actually helped me out. You know, in other areas of life where I was always embarrassed to talk in front of the camera, public speaking, especially hearing my own voice, but yeah, can't get enough of it now. Well, joking aside, I can certainly tolerate it. So again, Mark's just back onto cleaning that stone chip off on the bottom, using a heat gun to good effect there. It does work really well, applying a bit of heat. It is genuinely pretty tough, that stone chip on there. I was quite surprised it come off so well with a heat gun actually. I was trying to take it off with a flat wheel and it was wearing down the flat wheel taking the stone chip off. So I must just say thank you to all the people, all the subscribers that leave nice comments. Myself and Mark try and I certainly try and give every comment I can a thumbs up and a like, and I try and respond to all the comments. I know on the ERA videos Mark helps out and tries to comment as well. So there we go. That's not completely cleaned off on the floor yet. There's still some more work to do there. But you can see actually where previous repairs have been done. So you've got sort of the beige at the back and the red at the front where it's had no floor pans in the front. But in general, it is pretty clean and tidy under there. Obviously, we've already done quite a bit of repair work. But obviously by doing that, Mark did unearth some more areas of concern, as he's pointing out here. Yeah, I'll let Mark do the talking anyway. Over to Mark.
Right, so I found more rust. So got lots of rust in there. I've got a hole here. I've got lots of rust in there. So I've decided to cut this out, take the valance off, cut this section out here, cut part of the arch out here, and I'm going to do the same on the other side because I've got rust here and I just don't like it. Maybe a bit extreme, but I'm only doing this once, so here we go.
So as Mark quite rightly said there, the plan is only to do it once. So this car's already lasted 30 years, 30 odd years actually, and I'm sure it will last at least another 30, if not much longer than that. I mean, if you think what an ERA is worth now, imagine what it'd be like in 30 years' time. So as I've probably previously mentioned, actually, this is really one of Mark's strong points. Measuring things up, marking things, and cutting out. I quite like the way you might see it actually on the cabinets on the right, they're all sort of a gloss finish. So I always use Sharpie to mark on the cabinets, kind of technical drawings and measurements to refer back to later. They don't get lost that way. And a bit of brake cleaner or a bit of sort of solvent and it just wipes off the cupboards. So like I mentioned at the end of last video actually, Mark, look at that, it is like a sandwich of rust, isn't it? And the panels are all swollen there, which you can't really see unless you cut it out like that. When you're looking from the bottom or top, all you actually see is what looks like a slight dent in the panel looks slightly raised, but what it actually is rust between the layers of metal, and it does just become like a rust sandwich. So that panel at the back there, it's actually where 3 panels join. You've got the boot floor, you've got the rear valance, and you've got the rear panel. So it is quite a popular area on Minis for collecting rust.
Now I'm glad that I cut the scuttle off, because see all the rust there. That's it. Rust, 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 rust.
It can get quite disheartening, and yeah, like the scream suggested at the end of the last video, it just seems never ending. But I'm pretty confident now that with this bit done, that is going to be it, and it's going to be the putting it back together stage. Well, I say putting it back together, it will be the bodywork prep stage then, which is really boring. So I don't think we'll probably film every step of the way there, just because the time lapse will become really tedious and really boring. But we'll try and capture as much as we can anyway. This rear valance, actually, we're not quite sure what's going on here because the rear panel has been repaired. So yeah, bottom of the rear panel sort of below the rear lights and underneath the boot has been repaired the full width of the car. So just because you can see the weld line, so I don't know whether that is a genuine panel, heritage panel, or not quite sure actually. It's in good condition, but as I say, it's a repair rather than a complete panel. So you have to make some difficult decisions sometimes, otherwise you never get these builds done. So Mark's got a complete wheel arch there, but he's actually cut a part out to repair rather than replace the whole wheel arch, just because even from here you can see the rest of the wheel arch is in very good condition. Actually, it's only the bit right at the very bottom that needs replacing. So I know we've replaced a lot of metal on this car, but you can get to the point where you end up getting a bit carried away and just replacing everything. But I prefer to keep as much of the original metal as possible. Now that doesn't mean keep as much as the original rust. That is going back to where you've got good metal. So I'm perfectly happy with areas like that where the rest of the wheel arch is in pretty much tip-top condition to weld in a repair section. It just tries to keep as much of the shell as original as possible. And in fact what we end up doing is that'll be a complete wheel arch panel there. We're obviously just using one part of it, and I think Mark's got a bit of a collection actually of wheel arches with the same section cut out of it now. I'm sure there's a couple from kit. I think on Bolt actually we did replace the whole wheel arch because it was rusty at the top. So I've just realised actually this update is all Mark. I'm not involved at all here. So that's good. I think it just goes to show how far Mark has come in his restorations, and I might have mentioned it last time. I certainly have actually. But Mark has not been into minis for that long. I think he passed his test and had a mini, then started his own business and has been busy for most of the rest of his life, working really hard, and he's got to that point now where the kids are grown up a bit, the business has matured and is well established, and he can afford to, spend weekends and normal time that most of us take for granted when you work for a company, evenings and weekends, but when you own your own business you end up working them as well. But anyway, Mark's got to the point where he has a bit of spare time now, a bit of his own time where he can pursue his hobby, and obviously he's decided to take up minis. So like I say, relatively new to the mini scene, definitely to restoring minis. So this is Mark's third year. So it's really amazing to see how far Mark's come along, and you can see him doing bits of welding here, which he wouldn't have done last year, but obviously he's growing more confident with it now, starting to do some panel welding now. I'll try and help him out and give him tips the best I can when I see him. But the thing with welding like this is I guess you could probably do a course. I know there are evening courses you can do in welding, but I learned through trial and error and just practice and experience, which I think certainly practice and experience is probably the best thing you can do. But it's also good to understand the theory of it. Why does a welder do what it does? Why does metal do what it does? But yeah, anyway, I think Mark's making a good go of it here. So we're just approaching the end of this update. So thanks for watching, and there will be another update coming very soon.